Hi everyone, Stephen Lee here. I've been getting a lot of great questions in regards to should I file or do I have to file a 2020 income tax return to actually request any stimulus payments I may have been eligible for that either my parents never received or I never received. Right. So in this video, I'm going to be covering those questions that if you were claimed as a dependent in 2019, can you reclaim any unpaid stimulus payments through the recovery rebate? Thank you again, all of you who've been posting questions in regards to this recovery rebate. I'm going to be covering a lot of those questions in this video, so you want to stick around. All right. So a lot of the questions were in regards to children who in 2019 were 17 years or older, or college students or grad students, as well as adult dependents who either have no income or whose only source of income were Social Security benefits, right, in 2019 or in any year before then, right? Those were a lot of the questions really revolved those individuals, right? Adult children, as well as seniors or even college students or grad students. So in this video, I'm gonna be covering if you qualify, right? And if you do qualify, should you file a 2020 income tax return on your own? Before we go into actual definitions, let's first take a look at the recovery rebate worksheet. Okay, I've been getting a lot of questions on that too. Where do you find this recovery rebate worksheet? This is the worksheet that you're going to need to complete in order to know what to put on that recovery rebate line on your 1040, right? So this recovery rebate worksheet that we're going to take a look at and do a screen share, it can be found in your 2020 Form 1040 instructions, page number 59. I'll leave a link in the information section below this video in regards to where to find this recovery rebate worksheet. All right, so the first place we're going to go to is we're going to search for IRS Form 1040 instructions, okay? Go down to instructions for 2020, okay? And then when you go to the IRS, you're going to go to this PDF, 2020 instructions 1040. And then we're going to scroll down, make sure it's for the 2020 year, and it's for the 1040. Okay, this is the individual income tax return. Go down to page 59, okay, 51, 52, 59. This right here, once again, is the recovery rebate worksheet. Okay, this is what you're going to use to fill out line number 30 on your Form 1040. Okay, so once again, if you want an actual step-by-step instructions in the information section to this video info card, I'm going to leave, I have a two-part series in filling out this actual worksheet. It goes line by line, so you can refer to that video. But for this video, we're trying to answer the question, if you had a college student, an adult dependent, if you had a child, if you had a grad student in your household, can or should they be filing their own 2020 income tax return to claim any potentially unpaid stimulus payments, right? So that question we've been getting a lot of. So right here, let's look at this one. Question number one, okay, question number one here. Can you be claimed as a dependent on another person's 2020 return? Okay, this question will answer 95% of the questions in regards to can you file your own return? Should you file your own return to claim any unpaid stimulus payments? If you answer yes, right here, that you can be claimed as a dependent on another person's 2020 return, then you can't take the credit. So you don't complete the rest of this worksheet and you don't file your own 2020 income tax return. And I'm going to be covering in the later part of this video what is the definition of a dependent, right? This word here, can you be claimed as a dependent on another person's 2020 return? If you answer yes, then unfortunately you cannot take the credit. You do not qualify and you should not file your own 2020 income tax return. So let's go take a look at, I'm going to go over what is the definition of a dependent. All right, so as you can see, the recovery rebate worksheet is the best place to start in regards to can you or should you file your own 2020 income tax return. Remember, question 1 here, once again on that recovery rebate is, can you be claimed as a dependent on another person's 2020 return? Remember, can you be? This does not ask, will you be, right? Or should you be? It says, can you be claimed as a dependent, right? Can someone else claim you as a dependent on their 2020 tax return? Not 2019, not 2021, not 2018, but on their 2020 tax return. Can someone claim you as a dependent, right, on their tax return? If that answer is yes, then no, you should not file your own return to try to claim this recovery rebate, okay, for any unpaid stimulus payments. If that answer is no, then you should be filling that out and potentially filing your own income tax return. So the question still remains here, right? So if we've gone over the recovery rebate worksheet, the $1 million question is, who is a dependent, right? So remember, that question is, can you be claimed as a dependent? Let's go over the definition for who is a dependent, okay, per the IRS rules. And these rules I'm pulling from is IRS Publication 501. I'll leave a link to this publication that shows the exact definition of who is a dependent. And there's a lot of examples there and a lot of qualifiers and exemptions. Please read that over if you're not sure if you can be claimed as a dependent, okay? So remember, this is IRS Publication 501 that I'm pulling this information from. The term dependent, there are actually 2 types of dependents. The first is a qualifying child. Okay, and I'm going to cover that. Who is a qualifying child? And number 2 is a qualifying relative. Okay, so this is anybody that's not a qualifying child, potentially, can be considered a dependent if they fall under the qualifying relative. Okay, so let's first go over qualifying child. There are 5 tests. I'm going to breeze through these, okay? Please refer back to publication 501, right, for the formal ones, okay? The first test for a qualifying child, first of the 5, is relationship test. Okay, what is their relationship to you as a person claiming them as a dependent? Okay, so this is son, daughter, stepchild, foster child, or a descendant of any of them. For example, like a grandchild, brother, sister, half-brother, half-sister, stepbrother, stepsister, or a descendant of any of them, like a niece or a nephew, right? That's a very long definition. This is all in publication 501. Adopted children and foster children, right? Adopted children, a child who's been formally adopted into your family through legal process is always treated as your own child, okay? A foster child is an individual placed with you by an authorized placement agency or judgment, okay? So if that is true and you are taking care of a foster child, then they also qualify in this relationship test as a qualifying child. Number 2 is the age test, okay? A child must be under the age of 19 at the end of the year, okay? So as of December 31st, they need to be under age 19 and younger than you or your spouse if you're filing a joint return, or a full-time student under the age of 24 at the end of the year, December 31st, and younger than you or your spouse, right? The student must be enrolled in at least 5 calendar months of school, or the full-time equivalency defined by that school, right? So that can be high school, college, grad school, some types of vocational schools, some types of technical schools also apply. In publication 501, once again, they go into more greater in depth on what type of school qualifies, okay? There's another thing here, the age test for a child. If your child is permanently and totally disabled at any time during the year, regardless of their age, they may fall under, they don't fall under this age test here, right? So you might have an adult child who's permanently or totally disabled, then they don't have to meet this age test here, right? And once again, publication 501 goes into greater in depth in terms of what permanently disabled means. The third test for a qualifying child is residency test. The child must have lived with you for more than half the year, okay? There are exceptions. 501 goes over those exceptions. The support test, the child can't have provided more than half of his or her own support for the year. Okay, this is the one that really disqualifies a lot of college students and seniors in high school, right? Those that were under or who are age 17 or above, right? This support test is probably where they're going to fail, right? If you're a college student or you're a high school student and you're wondering, hey, should I apply for my own 2020 income tax return and try to get the stimulus payments that my parents were never able to claim for me? If you did not provide more than half of your own support, that's financial support, right? And I'm going to go over the definition for support later on, but if you did not provide more than half of your own financial support, then you do not qualify for a stimulus payment. Because, once again, going back to question number 1 on the Recovery Rebate worksheet, you can be claimed as a dependent of another person, right? So if you can be claimed as a dependent, if you fall under this qualifying child definition, then you can't claim the Recovery Rebate Credit. Okay, then the 5th one is a joint return test, right? If the child cannot file a joint return for the year. For most children, most people that were asking this question, you probably don't fall in this category. Okay, so once again, if you fall under this term, qualifying child dependent, then you cannot go out and claim your own recovery rebate for 2020. So this means that you should not file your own individual 2020 income tax return and try to reclaim any stimulus payments your parents did not receive or adult provider did not receive on your behalf. Okay. Remember, let's go to the second one. The term dependent also includes qualifying relative. Okay. So who is a qualifying relative? Let's answer that. There are 4 tests for this one. The first one is you're not a qualifying child, right? So all those 5 tests that we just talked about, as long as if you're part of one of those, or if you are a qualifying child, you're not considered a qualifying relative. The second is a member of household or relationship test. Okay, so the first part is member of household means this person lived with you all year as a member of your household. Okay, so if you lived in another person's home all year, then you fit this description of member of a household. Relationship test. Publication 501 goes very in depth in terms of who this is, but relationship also includes be related to you as a child, stepchild, foster child, descendant of any of them, your brother, sister, half-brother, sister, or half-sister, stepbrother, stepsister, your father, your mother, a grandparent, or a direct ancestor, but not a foster parent, okay? A foster parent cannot be claimed as a qualified relative, okay? Your stepfather or stepmother qualifies. Nieces or nephews of your brother or sister, half-brother or half-sister, a brother or sister of your father or your mother. So that could be an uncle or an aunt, also qualifies as a potential qualifying relative. Your son-in-law, daughter-in-law, father-in-law, mother-in-law, brother-in-law, or sister-in-law. Any of the in-laws can potentially qualify here as a qualifying relative. So you'd meet the relationship test. The third test is gross income test, okay? So basically, if a person's gross income, so this qualifying relative, for the year has to be less than $4,300, okay? If that person that you're trying to qualify as a dependent, adult dependent, qualifying relative, if they have gross income more than $4,300 for the year, then they will fail this test. Okay, gross income, what does that mean? It's income from is all income in the form of money, property, and services that is not exempt from tax. Okay, once again, income that is not exempt from tax. So this can be actually rental property income or rental income that one of your qualifying relatives actually has. They may own a home or an apartment that they're renting out and they're receiving and they're reporting that income, which is taxable. Or if they have a job as well. If their job or any of that type of income is greater than $4,300 and is taxable, okay, once again, taxable is a key word here, then they do not qualify as a qualifying relative, and you cannot claim them as a dependent, okay? Gross income also includes unemployment compensation. Many people in 2020 received unemployment compensation from the federal government, from their state government. So if that's also taxable, okay, so you have to add that into this calculation. Did they receive unemployment compensation greater than $4,300, okay? This also includes a portion of taxable Social Security benefits as well. Okay, so there's many questions in here in regards to can my qualifying adult or my parents or grandparents who receive Social Security benefits, should they file their own return? I'm going to answer that in just a little bit, but if they received it and their Social Security benefits are taxable, then that goes into this gross income test. Okay, number 4 is a support test. You must generally provide more than half a person's total support during the calendar year. Okay, support. What is the definition of support? Okay, and this ties back to a qualifying child as well. Okay, support is defined as food, lodging, clothing, education, medical and dental, recreation, that's activities, transportation, and similar necessities. Okay, so that is what's classified as total support. When it comes to food, it's really hard to pinpoint basically a grocery bill, what goes and what goes to whom. So what they do is you divide the total amount spent among all the members of the household. Okay, it's a pretty easy calculation there if you think about it, right? Total amount spent on food divided by the number of members of the household. Lodging is basically the fair market rental value, okay, of that room or the lodging that person is in. Okay, so basically if you provided or someone else provided more than half of your support, right, your financial support, your food, your lodging for the year, then you can be claimed as a dependent, right, of another person's taxpayers' return for 2020. So you should not and you do not qualify for that rebate credit. Okay, so you should not be filing your own income tax return for 2020 to claim any unpaid stimulus payments. One question that I do get a lot very often also is, when should a child file a tax return? Okay, when should a child, a qualifying child, going back to those first 5 tests, when should they file? There's 2 real cases. The first is if they have unearned income. If that child has unearned income that's more than $1,100. Okay, unearned income is like portfolio income, like interest, dividends, things like that. If it's more than $1,100 in the calendar year, yet child should file their own return, not as an independent but as a dependent, but they should still file their own return. Number 2 is if that child also has earned income that's more than $12,400. Okay, that $12,400 is the standard deduction for single individuals for 2020. So if it exceeds that amount, then that child must file a tax return, whether as a independent or dependent, most likely as a dependent, but they need to file a tax return. Okay, so going back to, once again, the question of should you file a 2020 income tax return on your own? So most likely you're a high school student, a college student, or a grad student potentially, or even an adult dependent who normally did not file returns in the past, whether you had no income or you were receiving Social Security benefits only. Then if those are the cases here, then you have to really find out to see basically, can you be claimed as a dependent in 2020, okay, by another person? If the answer to that question is yes, then no, you should not file. You are not eligible to claim the Recovery Rebate Credit for any unpaid stimulus that either your parents or an adult provider who supported you during the year did not receive. Okay, so once again, if you can be claimed as a dependent, if you meet any of these tests as a qualifying child or a qualifying relative, then no, once again, you should not be filing a 2020 income tax return, nor filling out the recovery rebate worksheet to try to claim a recovery rebate for the 2020 year. I hope this was helpful. Please continue to post. If this is the kind of content that you're looking for, don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications. Until next time, I wish you a wonderful day. Bye.